Alabama obviously has got some they got some pretty serious culture shifts going on in their college football program. And when you lose a coach, not only a coach, but the best coach that's ever done it in Nick Saban, you're obviously going to have a culture shift and you're going to have players leaving and coming, going, all that good stuff. But a good a good thing for this team is the fact that Jalen Milroe stuck around. And I think that that's a really big deal. Now, he's going to be in a completely different offense than than what he ran, obviously. Um, but there was an exodus of talent from the program as the regime change took place, and I have to expect that as at the beginning of the year at least, there's going to be some question marks in certain areas. And I don't think we're really going to know what those question marks are for Alabama. I think they're kind of unique to this situation because all of this has just kind of happened. I don't think we really know where Alabama is going to have deficiencies yet. I think they're kind of rare in that in rarefied air in that sense that I think we're going to have to wait till spring and kind of see where some of these holes develop. Don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you saw, but there's some videos going around about the drills that they've been doing. Everybody's kind of like making fun of the drills that they've been doing in their indoor facility, which I think
What are they
is
doing?
bizarre. What they're doing isn't bizarre. I think that you know fans of other programs saying, "Oh, Alabama's done," but they're doing just some very odd line drills, where they're kind of skipping as high as they can and landing on the same leg that they skip on and trying to jump as high as they can. Just some interesting mobility techniques, and people are kind of having fun with it. But
Hmm.
it doesn't mean that Alabama is done, folks. Kalen Deboer
Alabama's
knows.
done because they're skipping around their college football playoff or their college football facility, so they're
Right.
done.
Yeah. So Kalen DeBoer knows what he's doing. I think that more coaches are probably looking in and saying like, well, is that great for knee strength or what are they doing? Because it's probably working. I feel like Kalen DeBoer has proven that he can. He's of all coaches, he's probably done more with less than just about any of them outside of Sonny Dykes, probably. Um, and that's arguable because they were, I think, more competitive last year than TCU was. So, anyways, looking into the schedule, I think, and kind of going in with what you're saying, we're not going to know much about this team. They're not going to know much about themselves. The coaches don't know what they have, right? They've got
Yeah.
this pile of clay in front of them, and they're trying to figure out what the heck they're going to sculpt out of it. And that, like, they don't even have a foundation yet. They have no idea what this team is.
Yeah.
And it's not even done transforming from a roster standpoint. We're going to see spring practice go. Um, we're going to see the team go through spring practice, and then you're going to have the transfer portal open back up, and teams are going to be able or players are going to be able to transfer in and out of programs once again. So they've got a big old mess on their hands. They're trying to figure out what is going to be made of it, and they've got Western Kentucky to start the season and South Florida as well, which was a tricky game last year, right? With South Florida, but
Yeah, watch out for them Bulls, bro.
yeah. So I think that they're going to win both of those, but I think that kind of sets up okay, I guess, heading into a game at Wisconsin, which is interesting that it's an away game, but I guess they've got a home and home with Wisconsin, which is neat. But they've got to go to Wisconsin and play with a team that they're not really familiar with, right? They're not going to be familiar with each other yet. I'm not saying that I'm predicting Wisconsin to upset Alabama or anything like that, but it is kind of interesting that that's the highest level of program that they're going to face before they go on a bye and then go to face Georgia, right? Or Georgia's coming to them. But anyways, Georgia's going to be coming into town, and this team still is probably not going to have their identity yet, right? So they're
Yeah.
really going to be tested in that, I guess it'll be a week 5 game against Georgia. And I don't think that they're going to measure up to the task. I think that this is going to be a really tough spot for Kalen Deboer. But once they get through that game and play through that game, I think that they're going to have a really good idea of where they're at and where they need to be and how to move forward from there. And I think the Georgia loss should be able to fuel them through the rest of these games. Not saying that they'll win every game, but they'll have a little bit stronger idea of what their program is moving forward and what they can do strategically to win the rest of the games in their schedule.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my initial thoughts with this whole situation, after, as I'm looking at the schedule, and we'll kind of name just what some of these tough games are here in just a second, but they brought in Kalen DeBoer for his offensive system. That was what his success was at Washington. It was this offensive system, and it was a really accurate quarterback for the most part, a really accurate quarterback, you know, slinging the ball around. They threw the ball a lot. Felt like as the year went on, they realized more and more that they needed to run the football, and did so, all the way to the tune of a national championship game, which was absolutely amazing. I don't think Washington had the roster to be where they were at. I think overall the Alabama roster is probably still more talented than that Washington roster was last year, even with the
Oh
exodus
yeah.
of talent that we've seen. So, with all that being said, I don't if they're gonna come in and try to install that same offensive system that they ran at Washington last year, I think it's gonna be a pretty tough year for Alabama,
Hmm.
because I don't think Jalen Milroe is that guy. That's not the type of quarterback that this guy is. He is a really good runner, but if you're expecting him to take a three-step drop and make a quick decision every play as far as, throwing the ball down the field, I don't see the accuracy. And look, there is no college football rule that says that Jalen Milroe can't get better this offseason. There's nothing that says that he can't become more accurate and work on his arm. Um, but this is a guy that did most of his damage whenever he got outside the pocket, and it calls for a lot of sacks being given up last year. Alabama was sacked like 50 times last year. I mean, it was insane. So I don't, and to further that point, at Washington, they protected their quarterback really, really well. I think that system was dependent upon the quarterback not being hurried or sacked. So I don't know that this offensive system is going to fit the tools that are in the tool bag at Alabama. We're going to see, and I could be totally wrong, but we're going to have to watch as spring goes on. I'm interested to see what that offensive line is going to look like. That's going to be, as I said, you can't be giving up sacks like you did last year. You can't be snapping the ball over the quarterback's head. Obviously, those are problems that would affect any team, no matter the talent level, no matter the coach. Those are all things that are going to affect you negatively. You talked about that Wisconsin game. I think September 14th at Wisconsin is a big game, and I think it's going to be a pretty tough game. I think going on the road to Wisconsin, that place is going to be packed. Those are some of the most diehard fans in all of college football. That place is going to be packed out. They are fired up on some Lou Fickle, dude. They're drinking the Fickle juice. Um, so I think that's going to be a tough game, and I think that guy could possibly be an L there. I do. There will be more. Alabama will be more talented than Wisconsin, but I think Wisconsin is going to have their identity and their more of their ducks in a row for that game at Wisconsin. You got the bye week, and then you got Georgia coming to town. Georgia is going to be licking their chops. Georgia is going to be, um, you know, nobody's going to be sliding past anybody or not thinking about this one. This is a big regular season game. Everybody's going to be watching that weekend. So I think that's going to be pretty tough sledding, obviously, for both teams. It's anytime Georgia and Alabama meet up, it's typically a slobber knocker. Then you got a couple of pretty easy games. You get South Carolina at home, on the road at Vandy, everybody's favorite road game there at Vandy. October 19th at Tennessee, that's going to be a tough one, man. I mean, they'll probably be pulling out all the stops, the smoky uniforms, the checkered, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's going to be a big deal. It'll be a big deal. I hope it's a night game at Tennessee like it was a couple of years ago. And we'll see if the Tennessee Vols end up throwing the goalposts in the river, or if Alabama can continue their reign on that. It's been a really lopsided rivalry. And then you get Mizzou. I think Mizzou is a really tough game. Mizzou's going to be a really tough out for anybody this year. I think that offense is going to level up. I think that defense is probably going to get a little bit better. Mizzou has got some momentum, no doubt about it. After beating Ohio State in the what was it, the Peach Bowl or something like that. It was one of those bowl games, those New Year's bowl games. And then you go on the road at LSU November 9th, and then you go on the road to Oklahoma. And then, oh, yeah, don't forget, you got the Iron Bowl to end the year. This is a tough schedule, Mason. This is a really tough schedule. At Oklahoma, at LSU, at Tennessee, playing Georgia at home, and playing Auburn at home. And then don't forget your non-conference Wisconsin.
Yep. I think that Missouri is a tough out, at home.
And I left them off. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that's potentially a top 10 matchup, at that point. It's very interesting, this schedule. I think that it sets up for like a 3 or 4 loss season for Alabama. And I think that that's kind of what Kalen Deboer wants in a way, depending on how it unfolds, right? And if they can win some big games, win some close games, like maybe if they could beat LSU at the end of the year and LSU's undefeated or something like that, that would be a huge win. You gotta have those in your first year to really say, like, this is what we look like when we're moving efficiently, and this is what it looks like, in a loss against Tennessee. Maybe you point to that as a coach sitting in a recruit's home and say, look, this is what it looks like when we don't have you on our field, right? This is why we need you. We're missing you at this position, right? So you're going to kind of need those L's in some ways. Now, look, obviously, if Kalen Deboer could come in and win the national championship in year one, he'd take it, right? It's just not feasible really for that to happen. I'm really looking at Alabama as, under Kalen Deboer as a year 2 sort of program to get that year 2 bump. And I think that they'll be firmly in the National Football Championship conversation again in 2025. But this is a slobber knocker of a schedule. I think they're going to take their lumps in 2024 this year.
Yeah, we'll see. We're going to see, and spring, like I said, spring is going to let us know where this team's at, and we'll get to hear a lot from Deboer on that. And I expect nothing but honesty from him as far as what he's seeing out there, because I expect to see complete honesty from all the coaches during spring. It's like, okay, if you need to get somebody out the door, springtime's the time to do it, with that transfer portal opening up. So I expect some of these new coaches to be laying the hammer down pretty hard in the springtime and figuring out who is part of this team and who's going to be headed out the door, and try to do it pretty quickly. Let's move on.